Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open in the near future with a US astronaut being sent into space on an exploratory mission. Inside his shuttle, the Ranger 3 Captain Buck Rogers is all by himself when flying into a cosmic storm and suddenly being flash frozen. He lives life like a popsicle for another 5 centuries until being found by an alien race of humans in the year 2491. Their race is called Draconians, their giant starship is called Draconia, and their king is called Draco, but we only see an angry hologram of him. He sent one of his 30 daughters Ardala as an emissary to Earth, but she's finally away from the old man, so ready to get out the horny crown. General Kane orders them to shoot at the Ranger 3, but it doesn't fire back, so they abduct it with triactor beams to investigate further. Along with the mute bodybuilder Tigerman, they wake the 500-year-old Earthling from his cryosleep but injected him with too many painkillers. He's belligerent, but even if he could answer their questions, they haven't heard of America and just assume he was sent to spy. Ardala's immediately attracted to him, however the Draconians have secretly come here to conquer his planet, so Kane tells her to put it away. They have Earth believing they've come in peace, however hide a transmitter on Ranger 3 that will reveal a way through the planet's defenses. Rogers just assumes this is all a dream and is sent back to Earth through all the bright lights and pretty colors because he's still high. Some time ago humans installed a force field around the planet, so Kane has the theory that if Buck is a spy they'll let him through. However, it vaporizes anything it touches, so the princess looks worried, but Kane says it's no big loss if they're wrong.
Well, how can this help?
His approach is picked up by the Earth Defense Force, who don't recognize the strange vessel because all records from before World War III were lost. To save him, Colonel Wilma takes a group of fighters through a secret doorway in the shield and escorts him back down through the danger zone. Rogers just thinks that these must be the new Russian jets and accompanies them to New Chicago, which was built atop the ruins of the old one. When they land, Buck is immediately like, "Hey babe, I'd fly with you anytime," but Wilma thinks he's a pirate, so orders his cavity be checked for laser guns. She sends him to meet a Dr. Huer, be determining whether Rogers can be trusted, and got elbow deep but found only a clean record. He assigns the astronaut a robot called Twiki that wears one of the rulers of Earth around its neck, named Dr. Theopolis. This Flava Flav clock is part of the Computer Council, which are a group of artificial intelligent traffic lights that keep humans alive. Rogers finally believes he's in the 25th century and that the world's recovering from a nuclear holocaust that destroyed everything he loved. The robots have been assigned to help him acclimate to the new world, however Wilma still thinks he's working with the pirates who attack their trade lines. In truth, the attacks are staged by King Draco so that Earth will seek an alliance with them and open up its defenses to Draconia. Rogers suggests this, but Earth is so desperate to stop the pirate attacks that Wilma ignores all of his making sense. Despite still being a prisoner, Buck makes the slowest escape in history, but Wilma is unable to shoot him because she finds him just so damn attractive. He brings his mechanical escorts into the wasteland, where it gets colder the further away they travel from the emanating heat of the city. The three wander through the ruins of old Chicago but get set upon by a party of mutants because Twiki has some valuable parts. Buck goes to a graveyard and finds only a single Rogers headstone because the end of the world happened so quickly that families were buried together. He finally comes to terms that he's living in the future, but it might be too late to care because now they're surrounded by hungry mutants. The captain fights them off and even Twiki gets some kicks in, but they're vastly outnumbered, so Theo says we're screwed. Before being turned into a succulent mutant meal, a team of soldiers arrive led by Wilma and saves Rogers like she always does. However, she has him forcefully brought back to the city where they've found the transmitter and claim this is evidence that Buck's a pirate. Theo suggests the Draconians snuck it on board because the captain knows details that only someone who's been inside Draconia or Ardala would know. The clock represents Buck at his tribunal, where he tries to convince all the other computers that this 500-year-old man hasn't lived long enough. The council weren't built by humans but from generations of older computers and decide to sentence Buck to death because why not? Wilma has started to warm up to the man out of time, so before the execution she offers Buck a chance to prove his innocence. They take some fighters up to Draconia and request permission to come aboard under the guise of being their military escort to Earth. Really, they want to see if the princess recognizes Rogers because that would mean he's telling the truth and the aliens have broken their agreement. Kane is convinced that Rogers was a spy the whole time, however greets him amicably as not to let Wilma know they've met before. To prove he's been inside them, Buck describes the inside of the princess's chambers as well as the interior of her bedroom. But there's no time to check if he's telling the truth because Draconia is suddenly attacked by pirates. They're actually just Draconians painted to look like pirates, but the Earth Defense Force fly out to protect their treacherous guests. Unfortunately, Earthlings use computers to make their decisions in combat instead of instincts, so all of them get blown up except for our named characters. Buck turns off the autopilot and destroys every single pirate ship by himself while Wilma does nothing because she doesn't switch to manual. They return to Earth where Rogers is still expected to be sentenced. However, Theo says that the princess has requested a stay of execution. She wants the man who single-handedly saved them from pirates to attend her arrival, which is a personal dig at the only other survivor. This means that Buck gets to keep his head because the princess is smitten. However, he uses the reception as a stepping stone to clear his name. He has Twiki bring him a sedative and a red rose before Ardala arrives dressed like a space barbarian going to the beach. Kane has brought along the glass sword of peace and the princess says let's all be friends before partying to what future people call music. Before making his move, Rogers asks Wilma if she knows about the Trojan horse, but she doesn't, so he doesn't bother to tell her his plan. It involves bearing gifts in order for Rogers to ask the princess for a dance while the wingman Twiki gives his opinion on her outfit.
What a body.
A charmed Ardala gets up to show us her moves, which gets Kane jealous from her side of the room and Wilma jealous from the other. They watch these two flail around in a painful attack on our senses, so Rogers tells the DJ to take it old school, like 500 years. Maybe 600. However, Theo still calls it an impressive display and reinvents the robot while the princess joins in by moving around kinda like a human. The only person who calls this whole thing disgusting is Wilma, who sulks in the corner, and Kane, who walks over and Buck blocks Captain Rogers. He reminds the princess that she's here on business, so she tells Buck to visit her for a 2 a.m. booty call and leaves to go dry off. Unfortunately, Wilma has decided to make this the time she confesses her love for the captain, so he must shut this beautiful woman down. He says that after 500 years he needs to go easy on re-entry, which is space talk for no hanky-panky tonight, then sneaks aboard a Draconian shuttle. Ardala is waiting for him, still wearing her silly hat, while Tigerman polishes his head in the corner, which is a real vibe killer. The henchman is dismissed and the princess goes to slip into something more comfortable, which just means take off the horns and cape. During her pointless exit, Cosmic Cosby slips the sedative into her drink, but she's coming at Earth, so screw the witch. She tells Buck that she wants him to help her overthrow her father and 29 sisters, then rule by her side because Kane sucks. Rogers says he's flattered and then rocks this woman's world until she passes out, then paralyzes Tigerman and tags him in. When the princess wakes and sees him beside her in bed, she feels violated but would still marry Buck over the whiny dweeb that is Kane. Meanwhile, Captain Rogers has discovered the pirate ships that attack them, so he subdues a Draconian and steals his disguise. He then sneaks around sticking explosives in the tailpipes of fighters. However, Twiki and Theo also snuck aboard on the same shuttle as Buck. They assume by the way he's dressed that he's a spy for the enemy, but Rogers wiggles that silver tongue of his and convinces the Tin Man that he's an ally. Working together to bring Draconia down, Twiki electrocutes the communications officer so that Theo can contact Wilma on Earth. She was heartbroken when discovering Buck was missing because she assumed that he was a spy the whole time and was just trying to pump her for information.
But how?
Learning that it was really for pleasure, she scrambles the fighters and tells them to switch off their autopilots this time so we can actually hit something. They destroy what few Draconians they encounter, but most of them explode while exiting the hangar bay because of the bombs shoved up their backsides. Tigerman somehow locates Buck when nobody else could, but is now a completely different actor who likes to throw people around. Fortunately, the bigger they are, the lower they hang, so Buck wins by kicking Tigerman in both of his and sticking a bomb on his back. He's then buried under some falling debris, so Theo radios Wilma to come pick them up and retrieve the completely unharmed captain. She comes flying into the hangar and lands for the three to get on board, but it takes a while because the android with dwarfism needs a lift. During this time is when we see a brief hologram of Draco yelling at Kane for listening to 3% of his daughters over the king. He should really just leave that 3% behind for causing all of this, but takes her with him and escapes on a shuttle just before Draconia explodes. However, this woman still blames Kane for not being man enough, so he contemplates making her walk home from here. Wilma and the boys fly back to Earth to start a band, and she apologizes to Buck for thinking he was attracted to the princess, but how could he not be with those sexy moves? She confesses her love for Rogers again and says she's going to show him how she's every bit the woman that the princess was, but he just says oh how nice. He's currently daydreaming about the other woman while watching her fly away, only to return later in the television series.
Eyes forward.
And the movie ends.